Watching Elon Musk, SpaceX, and the scientific developments of space discovery is my everyday passion. If you're in the same boat as me, or should I say spaceship, please give us a like.
Hey, welcome back to Great SpaceX, and Dmitry Rogozin, head of the Russian space program, has just claimed that America doesn't have any spacecraft. What the Oh man, has Rogozin lost his mind, or is there any implication behind these BS statements? And how did Elon Musk react? Let's find out in today's episode of Great SpaceX. Man, I really do want to find out. In a recent interview with the Chinese state media network CGTN, Rogozin argued that Russia's role in the International Space Station is vital. Only Russia's Soyuz spacecraft can transport American, European, Canadian, Japanese astronauts and their guests. Soyuz is irreplaceable because America doesn't have any spacecraft, he added. Well, it's yet another bizarre comment from the outspoken space chief, who is obviously aware that the claim is demonstrably false. What does that even mean? Demonstrably, in a way that is clearly apparent or capable of being logically proved. Well, given that meaning, of course it's demonstrably false. Has he not heard of SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft? What is going on in his mind? In fact, in October, Rogozin himself suggested Russian cosmonauts could soon be launching on SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft to the ISS. In our view, SpaceX has already acquired enough experience for us to be able to put our cosmonauts on Crew Dragon, Rogozin said through a translator at the time. So, of course, Rogozin's latest outburst raised eyebrows in the space community. It seems that he's conveniently bending reality to impress Chinese officials and convince them to help Russia with its space program, which has been largely cut off from international support following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Space policy online editor Marcia Smith also made the same point. He knows better. Is he hoping the Chinese audience doesn't? It's especially ironic given the fact that astronauts from Europe, the US, and Japan have already launched on board a Crew Dragon to the ISS, with Canada being the only exception on Rogozin's list. Sure, Crew Dragon may not have been developed in-house by NASA, but SpaceX is an American company that built the spacecraft with considerable NASA funding as part of its commercial crew program. In other words, Crew Dragon is the culmination of years of tight-knit collaboration between the two. Oh, and of course, I forgot that SpaceX is invisible to most politicians. Well, Musk should probably send Rogozin a ticket for a Crew Dragon to prove that SpaceX and the trampoline... Wait, sorry, I forgot. The American broomsticks are still alive and can fly. What we're all most curious about is how Elon Musk will react to hearing Rogozin's statement. Which is quite a pity that Musk has yet to comment on this. But I'm sure he'll slap Rogozin right in the face as he responded to the trampoline or American broomsticks taunt before. Aside from intentionally false statements, Rogozin also claimed that the ISS was doomed without Russia after being asked about threatening the US with a rapidly deorbiting ISS back in February. He told CGTN that Russia helps the International Space Station avoid space rubbish and maintain orbital correction. The ISS is in low Earth orbit. It helps deliver fuel to the station. These are the main contributions from Russia and Roscosmos in particular. So working without Russia is impossible, just like working without America, he said. Despite that, a day ago, Rogozin has once again threatened to end its cooperation with the West on the ISS program. He decried the sanctions imposed by the US, Japan, Canada, and the European Union, the other ISS partners, on his nation because of its invasion of Ukraine. Rogozin said via Twitter on April 2nd that the purpose of the sanctions is to kill the Russian economy, plunge our people into despair and hunger, and bring our country to its knees. I believe that the restoration of normal relations between partners in the ISS and other joint projects is possible only with the complete and unconditional lifting of illegal sanctions, he added in another tweet. Rogozin also apparently made this or a similar complaint to the ISS partner agencies in a formal fashion on March 14th. And on Saturday, he posted on Twitter what he said were some partners' responses to a March 30th letter from NASA Administrator Bill Nelson. In this letter, Nelson pledged his ongoing support for the space station, but reiterated that the sanctions will not end. Rogozin's recent tweets, of course, do not necessarily mean that the ISS program is in immediate danger of dissolution. Anyway, the Russian space chief is a blustery figure with a history of hyperbolic statements. But also, it cannot be denied that the cooperation on the space station will end at some point in the near future. Some of the ISS's hardware had been flying in space for nearly 25 years, and it will eventually age out. Vladimir Putin, not Rogozin, could decide at any point that Russian participation on the ISS no longer suits him. But pulling out of the ISS seems improbable because walking away from the space station would be the equivalent of taking a wrecking ball to Russia's civil space program. Russians take enormous pride in their space program, going back more than 6 decades to Sputnik and Yuri Gagarin. However, without active cooperation with Western nations, Russia would certainly no longer be a space power. It would be the world's first former space power. And in that same interview, Rogozin also said Russia would be interested in working with China on launching a Mars rover after the European Space Agency announced it is no longer planning on launching its ExoMars rover this year, since it was planning to do so using a Russian-made Proton rocket. Predictably, Rogozin condemned the international community for implementing illegal sanctions against its space program, once again painting Russia as the victim. In fact, the space chief went so far as to throw the ESA completely under the bus. In the construction of ExoMars, the main element is the landing module, he said in the interview. The Mars research rover is not the essential element. I think we can make this mission happen with another partner like China or someone else. It's not a stretch to conclude that Rogozin is acting in bad faith. One can only hope his comments are not reflective of Roscosmos' outlook as a whole, because after all, years of hard work by Russian scientists and engineers are at stake, and the future of Roscosmos is pretty bleak. Now, there will be more pressure as the sanctions imposed on Russia will further impair the country's economy, which very likely will result in deeper cuts for the country's civil space program. All of this translates into fewer resources pouring into the Russian space program and a diminution of its activities. Man, I am just throwing out like new vocabulary left and right here. Anyway, without investment, the country is unlikely to be able to afford any semblance of deep space activities or the creation of its own space station as a follow-on to the ISS. The ball is now in China's court. The two countries have shown a willingness to work together before and are already collaborating on a planned lunar base. But given the current geopolitical crisis and the subsequent fallout in international relations, China may be thinking twice about taking Rogozin up on his offer. Russia itself also should take caution, because even if China agrees to this offer, the Chinese lifeline will almost certainly come with enormous costs. China will be interested in partnering with Russia to promote the idea that it is leading an international exploration program, but Russia should have no illusions about who will be driving the bus and who will be along for the ride. If you enjoy what my team and I are doing, you can become a patron through our Patreon link in the description below. And as a quick note, if you have advertising needs, you can contact us directly via email.
That's all for today, but we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again for tuning in, and have a great day.